Hello everyone, and welcome to the next video in our series of Bible characters through the alphabet. We are now on the letter J, and J is for Jonathan. So Jonathan, you'll find him in the book of Samuel and also in the book of Kings. When Samuel, sort of 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, he appears in little brief images throughout those passages amidst a lot of battle and fighting. He was the son of Saul. Now, Saul was the first king of Israel. So the Israelites had come out of Egypt, they'd gone into the promised land. We've talked previously about the judges who ruled over the Israelites at that time. And the Israelites looked around at the people around them and said, everybody else has got a king, we should have a king. And God allowed them to have a king in Saul. So Jonathan is the son of Saul, the first king of Israel. And we see him a lot because he becomes best friends with David, as in David and Goliath. So Saul is king. He really wants a harpist to come and play to him because he has bad dreams. So he hears about David, and David comes along to play in his presence and to help him go to sleep. You might know that David was the next king and Samuel went and anointed him. And you probably know about David and Goliath and all the fighting and the other stories about him. So Jonathan is in the middle of these two people, and I do feel sorry for him because his father is intensely jealous of David, because David has defeated Goliath and the people love him, and everywhere he goes he wins all of his battles and God blesses his work, and Samuel has anointed David to follow Saul as king. And Saul is really unhappy about that because he wants Jonathan to be king next. Now Jonathan is best friends with David and protects him from his father and encourages him. He gives him presents. He gives him his tunic, his robe, his belt, his bow and his sword. And he tells David when to hide from his dad. He goes and runs interference for him. He talks David up to Saul, and when he realises that it's a lost cause, he sends secret signals to David to tell him how to escape. So Jonathan is this amazing guy, and the thing that I like best about him is the absolute lack of baggage that he carries. I've had to think about the baggage in my life quite a lot recently. I'm candidating for ministry, and one of the things that my placement minister keeps saying to me is, what baggage are you bringing from your previous church experience? How is that affecting the way you see life now? I remember growing up, my mum brought us up very properly in the words of those days. So I believe that belly was a bad word and we should only say tummy. And there were lots of things like that. And I remember just after doing my GCSE exams, my mother saying to me, now Kirsty, there may be many ways that we've messed up your life, but you do now have to decide, are you going to let those things still have an effect on you? Or are you going to take control and decide the person you're going to be? Now this is something that I think Jonathan does incredibly well. The whole time that his father has this intense burning hatred of David, Jonathan stands firm in his love and his support of David and his belief that God is calling David into that inheritance that really should have been Jonathan's. And Jonathan's relationship with David, despite the fact that David is now in opposition with Saul and those two families are clashing, he stays true to this idea that David will be next. And yet he keeps fighting alongside his father against their mutual enemies, against the Philistines, and his father takes credit for some of his battles. And throughout it all, Jonathan never says, look, I have to be my father's son and I'm going to go against David. And he never says to David, look, you can be king, but you need to give me this place. You can be king, but Jonathan accepts the fact that in supporting God's plan for David, he gives up his own inheritance, his own place in that next stand. And he is free from the influence of everybody around him. He does what he knows is right. And I find that incredibly influential and motivating and inspiring. That's the word I want, inspiring. I find it so easy to be influenced by the people around me. I find it so easy to to talk to Alan Emery and he tells me how good it is to be vegetarian, and I think, yes, that's really right. And then I talk to the Burge family with their cattle farm and how we should support cattle farmers, and I think, yes, that's right. You know, and it can be so confusing. And especially the baggage we bring from our own families. How do you let go of those expectations and that culture and that lifestyle that has been so influential on us from when we were young? And the inspiring thing about Jonathan is he just doesn't let it. His mind is not focused on the lessons that he has from his dad. His mind is not focused on his expectations of a future that is fairer for him. His mind is focused on what God expects from his life, and that is the only thing that influences him. And so he lives and does what is right. And he doesn't blame anybody else for who he is, and he doesn't put that burden onto anybody else. He takes responsibility for his own life. He clears himself of that baggage of having Saul as his dad, and he lives for God. That's a really, really hard thing to do. And it's probably something that for some of us could take years to let go of the things that have made a mess of our lives, that haven't been down to us but have been down to other influential people in our lives. But it's an incredibly freeing thing and a powerful thing. And God is willing to help us if we want to do that. So that is Jonathan, again, one of my favourite people in the Bible, because he just manages so easily to do the things that I struggle so much with. So let me pray for us as we finish this video. Lord, I just thank you for Jonathan. I thank you for the fact that he aspires for your plan to come to fruition before he aspires for himself to become successful or to take that place of power. I thank you for Jonathan's commitment and love for his friend, regardless of the attitude of his father. I thank you for his faithfulness throughout his life in making the decisions that he believed was right and not worrying about the consequences to himself. Please give us that courage to be influenced by you more than we are influenced by the people around us and our circumstances. I just pray for freedom from that baggage and that pain and that hurt that might exist in our lives because of broken relationships or because of the problems that other people have. Set us free from them and help us to live for you. Amen. Thank you very much for joining me for J, H-I-J-K. Our next letter is K, and K is for Keturah, which is a character I was amazed when I came across in the Bible. So I'll see you again in our next video. Bye!